What's going on, guys? Chuck here with another awesome Blu-ray purchase. And what I got is a new release from Arrow that was kind of a surprise, as seems to be the case lately, as they keep putting out such great stuff, and I'm getting surprised at what they choose. But this is a late 80s sci-fi comedy directed by Joe Dante that I was really impressed that they put out the big box, limited edition treatment for 4K, and that is Innerspace, starring Dennis Quaid, Martin Short, and Meg Ryan. Now, I remember when Innerspace came out, and I remember it kind of just came and went, but I can't remember like the trailers and previews for it, and that was it. It wasn't sometime later, you see it on cable. I never saw it. Like I said, if I did say that, I never saw it until just an hour or two ago. But it would always pop up in places, in retrospectives or whatever. But scenes from Innerspace would always show up. And let me tell you, after having watched it, I am really disappointed that I waited this long to see this movie. This was a very fun movie. To me, this movie kind of encapsulates the 80s. And I say that because, you hear a movie with a premise that shouldn't work. If you read it on paper, it's kind of ridiculous. Man gets shrunk down to microscopic size, he's ejected to another guy, and, comedy ensues. That sounds silly, but it works. And, that's what a lot of films were in the 80s. Weird premises that wouldn't fly today because they're too fantastical or too silly. No one wants to take a chance. The mid to late 80s, even early 90s, there was a lot of that. Kind of, you look at some of those films that we look at as great fun classics now, from that time, you look at them, they would not fly today because they don't make any sense, or no one wants to take a chance with that. But they did that with Innerspace. Also, you can tell it's a film made with love, and I mean that. You have filmmakers putting this together. They wanting to do the story right, get the characters right, the effects right, everything. They're not cranking out a product, which is a lot of issues I have, and a lot of people have, I think, with today's cinema. Everything's an IP, or it's a product. You're putting it out. It's content. You're not just doing it for art's sake, if you will. And they're just having fun with it. You can feel it. Also, like a lot of 80s films, it didn't do well at the box office. It kind of was forgotten about. However, it found its life in home video on VHS, which, a lot of our beloved classics from the 80s, that's what happened. They found a second life on home media, which is the reason why, this stuff should never go away. Think about that. Think of all the films that we love that were forgotten about in theaters and were able to find a second life on, home video on VHS. We can talk bad about VHS now, but VHS saved a lot of, film lives, if you will. So, and also what helped this too was, I believe that they mentioned that Innerspace was the first VHS to have a widescreen release, or a copy of a widescreen. When that was huge. I mean, that you started seeing that more often. People started realizing you're getting more. There was more in the theater screen than what you used to see on the old VHS tapes. So yeah, I mean, Innerspace, again, it just encapsulates to me, a lot of what 80s film was at that time. So what is Innerspace, for those of you who don't know? Well, again, the story is or the premise, I should say, is kind of ridiculous if you really break it down. You have Dennis Quaid, who's like a hotshot test pilot. He's bucks authority. He's a maverick, if you will, and he's just, for lack of better terms, I think he's looked down upon from his peers. He has a relationship with Meg Ryan, who's like a news reporter, but he's just he's a drunk. He's whatever. Fast forward sometime later, and he's being part of this science experiment where they want to shrink a person down and inject him into, initially a rabbit, to, for whatever reason, science. I'm sure there's some kind of medical deal. I didn't catch all that, but I just know it's science. And that's the whole premise. So they shrink him down. They're going to put him in a syringe and inject it in the rabbit and go from there. However, like most 80s sci-fi movies go, there is an evil corporation that wants this technology also. Headed up by Kevin McCarthy at his, swarmy evilness, kind of like how he was in UHF, but maybe not as over the top. So the evil corporation tries to take over. Scientist runs away with a syringe, trying to get away from it, and ends up injecting into the Martin Short character. Martin Short we meet, he's basically I won't say hypochondriac. He's very neurotic. He's just afraid of everything, but he gets a whole syringe full of Dennis Quaid shot up his butt. And there now Dennis Quaid is floating around in his body. He's able to communicate with him. And that's, they have to work together to help one, get Dennis Quaid out under a certain time crunch, and also prevent the, evil corporation from, getting this technology and selling it to the highest bidder, whatever it is they do. And that's, the long and short of Innerspace. Now, again, you listen to that premise, it sounds ridiculous. And frankly, it probably is. But watching the movie, you were invested because, Martin Short is great, Dennis Quaid is great. Everything plays well. There are some ridiculous moments in here, but it's all done, I think, with heart, and it helps it out so much. You've got great directing by Joe Dante. You've got great performances. The ILM visual effects, which won an Academy Award, are great. They're all practical. You've got fantastic stunt work in here, which just blew my mind to think about that. I mean, you've got some great chases too. You have a great car chasing a bike, and there's so many stunts. This bike is running, through. It's a bigger bicycle running through the street, just avoiding cars. And these are real cars, real people, real dangerous. And you've got a scene where Martin Short's in the back of a semi truck, or dangling off the back trailer door, a la Axel Foley, while trying to jump on another car. I mean, he's just dangling. I mean, you got real people, real vehicles, moving at real speeds. Again, good practical stunt work, which is just, for a comic like this, you wouldn't think you'd see, and it's great. I mean, this movie is just fun, and like I said, it came out in '87. I'd have been 12 when this came out. I mean, I've been perfect. I could see myself just falling in love with this movie as a 12-year-old. Unfortunately, I just had to wait till I was 51 to see it, but I still love it. Like I said, as I watched it, I just had that feel like, man, they just don't make movies like this anymore. At least not as fun. I mean, like I said, you could just feel the heart in this movie, and it just felt like, it just reminded me, again, like I said, there are so many films from that mid to late 80s, early 90s that just would never be made today, just because no one would want to take a chance on a crazy, wacky premise. They want to play it safe. And there were so many of those films around that time that didn't play it safe. That's why they're classic, why they're remembered. They stuck out, they were something different. That's what we lack so much now. Everything's about an IP or, blockbuster, just, playing it safe. No one wants to take a chance on anything. And, what the attention spans we have, maybe it's, it's not worth the risk anymore. I don't know. Again, stuff like Innerspace got a second life on home video, which, is not what it once was, unfortunately. So maybe no one wants to take a chance because of that, which is a shame. I hope somewhere, we can get back to, filmmakers wanting to make films, not just, studios hiring directors to make the next IP content. Anyway, rant over. I love the movie. I really enjoyed it. If you haven't seen it, do check it out. Very funny. So this 4K limited edition release from Arrow, let me just say, I have nothing to compare it to, as I've never seen the movie before until now, but I will tell you that this is a clean, crisp picture. Nothing that really stood out to me, honestly, as far as like, wow, these was look pop, but it looked clean. It looked good. I'm not a technical guy. I can't compare anything. Like I said, to me, it just looked really good. There are a couple of different sound options on here. I did listen to it in the Dolby Atmos, and it was a really good mix. I said, with a lot of special effects in here and some music cues. It really immersed you. You got some good, back speaker effects. Good, right, left channel. I mean, it's just all around. It's just good, clean, crisp sounding mix. and they're really immersive. So all that's really good. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. So here is the slip. Again, this is just the outer slip case, which was a little stiff when I first. It's loosened up when I first got it. I could not pull it out with all your specs in the back, of course. And then here's same image, but more the flat mat, and in the back, deep in the bowels of Martin Short's body. Inside we have the 4K case. This is the reverse artwork. This is the poster that I remember seeing when this movie first came out. There is reverse artwork on here as well. And I don't know. Let me see if I can pull that out. What we got here? Is it? Nope. Here, let me just. Okay. So here is the reverse art. So you got like 3 different choices here, which is pretty cool. Get that back in there. And I just had the red Sonya card. We also have the 2-sided poster. With the, like I said, this poster artwork, which was the one I remember also. And one that, interesting, I don't know if I've ever seen this, if this is it's kind of like a crossword. That's kind of cool. Crossword puzzle. I'm assuming this will be like, Martin Short's body. That's pretty neat. Oh, actually, it's a game. You have a start. So it's just, kind of just, it's almost like you can play a board game on this poster. That's pretty cool. And then, let's see, make sure I have the right side here. So here's your book. And the back of this is hilarious, actually. As you've got Martin Short and Dennis Quaid holding up Innerspace between the color purple and the weapon. That's hilarious. And of course, you've got your typical big write-up from Arrow essays and whatnot. This is pretty thick, and it's small writing, so there's a lot in here, a lot to cover. Here's your contents. So this will be a fun book to go through. Get this all back in here and take a look at these special features. So here's what we got. So we have brand new restoration from the original 35mm negative by Arrow Films, approved by director Joe Dante. It's presented in Dolby Vision, which HDR10 compatible. You have a newly restored original lossless 2.0 stereo. The original 70mm 6-track mix in DTS HD MA 4.1 surround, which I should go back and listen to that one because that sounds interesting. And the newly remixed Dolby Atmos audio options. You also have a brand new audio commentary by film critic Drew McWeeny, archive audio commentary with director Joe Dante, producer Michael Fennell, visual effects supervisor Dennis Mirren, and actors Kevin McCarthy and Robert Picardo. Shrinkage, The Making of Innerspace, a brand new hour-long documentary featuring newly filmed interviews with director Joe Dante, producer Michael Fennell, visual effects supervisor Dennis Mirren, visual effects artist Harley Jessup and Bill George, and actor Robert Picardo. Behind the scenes with Joe Dante, previously unseen video footage shot during the production of Innerspace. Behind the scenes at ILM, previously unseen footage shot by visual effects supervisor Dennis Mirren during production. Original storyboards, continuity and behind the scenes Polaroids, production stills gallery, posters and promo still gallery, theatrical trailer. So this thing is loaded with a lot of special features. I really, the documentary on here, the making of, is great. It's like an hour long. It's good to have a nice documentary film. Only could have made it better is if you could have got like Meg Ryan and Dennis Quaid and Martin Short to talk on it well, but that's okay. You've got Joe Dante, and Joe Dante is always great to listen to in any kind of documentary about film, whether his own or others. I see him on so many things, and he's just such a great, knowledgeable person when it comes to cinema. What's also cool is there's a lot of on-set footage, and I get to see a young Joe Dante. I very seldom ever see a young Joe Dante with all dark hair, and he looks like a totally different person. I'm always used to seeing the older Joe Dante with the white hair. That's cool. Also, you've got his behind the scenes video footage, which is just great archive. And there's so much great archival stuff on here, which I love. And I, really wish we could see more of that in other films. But it's cool that, Joe Dante provided his own home video footage for that. I should also mention, I don't think I mentioned Rob Ricardo. He talked about here. He's on here a lot. He plays a character called the Cowboy. And it's a character that wouldn't fly today. He'd be in so much trouble. But he's funny. It's a very funny. It's a great performance from Rob Ricardo. And I just he should be given a lot of credit for that. And again, it's just one of those things that wouldn't be allowed today. Not that it's really bad. Actually, it's not bad at all. It's just funny. But again, the sensibilities today are what they are. Would just be upset with it, which is too bad. But again, a film like this wouldn't be made today because it's too fantastical and it's not an IP. It's just whatever. I could wax on about that forever. But anyway, Innerspace. That was upside down. Sorry. I did this once before. It's flipped upside down. So Innerspace from Arrow, this 4K edition. Fantastic. If you've never seen it, check it out. Oh, such a fun movie. It really is. And it makes me wish we could get movies like this again. Because these are kind of movies I grew up with, and I absolutely love them. They're a soft spot for me. And I wish I'd seen this when I was 12 years old. So instead, I got to settle for being 51 and seeing it. But it made me feel young again. And that's always a plus. So that's it for this one. If you enjoyed this, click thumbs up, share, subscribe, leave me a comment below. Let me know if you saw Innerspace when it first came out, if you saw it was on VHS, if you've never seen it before, or just say hi. I'll always take hi. So until next time, this is Chuck saying I will see you on the other side.